Meeting to order.
Everyone go.
Sorry? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. Are there any late items, Corporate Officer?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I ask for approval of the agenda that you see? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Patton, all those in favor? Thank you. Moving right on to business items, 4.1, Doherty Avenue Reconstruction Project Road Width Option. And this is for Mr. Johnson, I believe.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the 2020 budget deliberations, we brought this forward as a project, and at that time we discussed looking at different width options. And at that time, direction from council was to bring back the tender results prior to award to confirm which width option we're going to proceed with. So in the report, there's a 9.2 meter wide option and an 11 meter wide option. Both are within budget. The 9.2 came in at just over 328,000, and the 11 meter at 392. So recommendation from staff is to move forward with the 11 meter option for the additional $64,260 that it's worth to be able to incorporate bike lanes on either side of that roadway for Doherty Avenue and Bathville Road. So if there's any questions from council.
Council? Any questions? Okay, I don't. Oh, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chris, can you just tell me what those figures were again for the 11 meter, and it was 9.2?
Yeah, so 9.2 was 328,685, and the 11 meter was 392,945. So a difference of $64,260.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Okay.
I have a question as well. You mentioned, Chris, that both of these proposals or bids fell within the RFP amount or the allocated amount from our budget. Can you remind us what that was? Was it 400,000 or something like that?
The total project budget is 500,000.
Oh, good.
So with the engineering, the construction services costs, the materials testing, the district gravels that we provide for capital works, we're still within the $500,000 budget.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other questions of Mr. Johnson? Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so if I could ask someone to bring forward the staff recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Patton, seconded by Councillor Carlson. Any further discussion on this agenda item? All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That was carried unanimously. Sorry, I'm talking away and I'm muted. So on to the second item, 4.2, 2020 budget implications for COVID-19. Did you want to introduce this CAO or straight on to the Director of Finance?
No, I think we're good to go straight into Dave's presentation.
Okay, over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the pandemic spread of the COVID-19 has caused some unprecedented economic turmoil. And many of the district's residents are facing economic uncertainty and are looking to all levels of government, not just the district, to provide some measure of financial support. The district has closed many of our public facilities, including the recreation center, the arena, the municipal hall, and the popular skate park. These closures have, and other anticipated reductions in revenue, have a significant impact on the district's finances. And unlike the provincial and federal governments, local governments cannot run deficits or borrow to balance operating budgets. So in BC, when a local government's operating budgets are largely funded by property taxes and utility fees, which basically run between 75 and 85% of our revenues. These are augmented with other revenues such as permits, community rec programs, those types of things, which help support the delivery of our key services. Many of these other revenues have already declined significantly as a result of the closures of non-essential services and the province-wide physical distancing orders. These decreases in revenues represent a funding gap issue for not just us, but all local governments across BC and Canada, not only from a simple cash flow perspective, because the revenues that are lost during this time, in most cases, will never be recovered in the future. So the attached report provides various financial projections that Council has already seen that have been calculated for each of the district's 4 funds. Now, based on these calculations, the district is projected to incur revenue losses between $2.45 million and $4.57 million for the remainder of the 2020 fiscal year. Now, if this pandemic extends past August 31st, these losses will increase as recreational facility revenue projections in the package in front of you have only been calculated out to August 31st. So we could see further losses. So over the past weeks, staff have been reviewing budgets to determine where potential cost savings could be found. The report summarizes identified cost savings ranging from $2.88 million to $3.39 million. And in many instances, service levels are being proposed to be reduced. Within the identified cost savings are $1.12 million worth of reduced salaries and wages resulting from temporary and permanent layoffs. Even with these cost savings, the district could still see itself in an operational deficit as a whole organization of $766,400. Now, when reviewing the information, this deficit is predominantly driven by the electrical utility and will need to be reduced to 0 in order to have a balanced budget. And now at this time, it is staff's recommendation to fund this deficit from previous year's operating surpluses. As noted earlier, many of the district's residents are facing economic uncertainty and are looking to all levels of government, not just us, to provide some measures of financial support. The federal government has implemented numerous programs to help alleviate some of the financial burden befallen citizens across Canada. Provincially, the government has implemented its own programs to help British Columbians in their time of need, and these programs are evolving daily. Yesterday, the province released a circular noting that they are further reducing the school property tax rate for commercial properties. These properties will now see an average reduction of 25% in their overall property tax bills. In addition, the province is also postponing the date that late payment penalties apply for commercial properties in classes 4 through 8 to October 1st. This will give businesses and commercial landlords more time to pay their reduced property taxes without any penalties. The financial projections throughout this report provide council with some financial tools at your disposal that can be used to further help Summerland residents in this troubling time if you so choose. In preparing the projections, staff has followed council's direction to focus on those potential savings that provide financial relief for the greater population of Summerland. So based on your direction, we're recommending the following actions be taken. Number 1 is that the property tax due date be delayed by 2 months from July 3rd, 2020 to September 4th, 2020. This measure provides for a potential savings of $168.30 to the average residential home in Summerland by delaying the penalty date. Now, based on council's direction, to look at the cost saving measures that will provide relief to the greater population of Summerland, staff are not recommending any decrease to the approved property tax increase in the 2020 financial plan bylaw. A property tax decrease would benefit those individuals that own property and would not provide any relief to the multitude of residents that currently rent. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, the province has implemented financial assistance to commercial properties that will see their overall property tax bill decrease by 25%. So based on those reasons, staff is not recommending a reduction. However, if council so chooses and wishes to provide additional relief through a decrease in property taxes, it should be noted that a 1% decrease in the property tax rate will provide a estimated $19.25 savings to the average home. Another measure that is being recommended by staff is that the district extend the discount on all utility bills until December 31st. This will provide additional financial relief to those residents and will not penalize them for having to make any difficult financial decisions, and could provide, on average, cost savings of $217.32 if implemented for the remainder of the year. Finally, the 2020 capital budgets are currently under review to determine the impacts of COVID-19 on specific capital projects. While some projects may be slowed or stopped, other projects will need to continue for essential capital work required in 2020 for regulatory requirements, safety, or asset preservation. In the coming weeks, council will review and be provided with recommendations as to how to proceed with the approved 2020 capital plan. That summarizes my report, Madam Mayor, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have a few questions. Does anybody else have, Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if the province has allowed for the delaying of collection of school taxes until October 1st. And since we collect those taxes, is there any logic in aligning that what we do with that collection as well, so we have our due date the same as the school taxes, that being October, I think you said?
Yeah, so right now, so what the province has put forward is moving the due date only for commercial properties. So in the province's opinion, residential and class 9 farms are still, the due date still is July 2nd for those properties to pay their property taxes. It's only the commercial properties that have had the due date extended to October 1st. So the province has also come out with some help, I guess, for local governments, in that normally we are required to pay the remittances of school tax that we collect by, I can't even, mid-October, I think it is. But they have extended that so we can delay making our payment to the province to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our Director of Finance, has our contribution to the RDOS, has that been extended, or when is that due? Is that due in July, or whatever the due date is for that? So is it only, I guess where I'm going at it, is it only the school tax that's been deferred?
As of right now, it is only the school tax that is being deferred. All other payments to all other jurisdictions that we collect on behalf of, so the RDOS, MFA, BC assessment, all those payment deadlines are still as they were.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Trainer.
David, I was wondering if you could explain why you didn't recommend doing a tax reduction at all. I know Oliver has, and I'm not sure what Penticton has done. But if you could just explain a bit more about why you think we should keep our proposed tax increase at 4%.
So part of the thought process was in looking at the recommendation from council and trying to look at different tools that are available to your disposal, and looking at the broader scope of the residents of Summerland. There are a lot of residents in Summerland that currently rent, and a reduction in property taxes does not directly benefit them, because in most instances when you're renting, you're not paying property taxes, you're just paying rent. It was looked at by focusing financial support and aid on the utilities side. Every renter still has a utility account. So the focus from staff's perspective and looking from the direction of council was focusing our efforts on those utility customers, because that serves pretty much the entire population of Summerland, where the property tax rate only affects property owners. So that was one of the first things. The second component of thinking from that perspective is we're currently looking at short-term options, but from a financial perspective, we also have to look long-term. And lowering a tax increase is going to hurt the district in the long term, because at some point in time, we're going to have to see increases in property taxes. And looking at next year, we could be looking potentially at a 7 or 8% rate increase just to catch up based on what potentially is going to be done this year. And I guess the third reason that we're not looking at any reductions is when we look at a 1% tax rate decrease to the average home, it is only $19.25. So like from a financial perspective, it's the impact is not as significant as potentially, delaying the 10% discount rate, where we're looking at 200 and some odd dollars potential savings on the utility side. So those three components are why staff is not recommending any reduction on the property tax rate.
Councillor Barkwell, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks. I agree with everything the Director of Finance had to say about this issue. And I think there's more to it, or maybe to expand on it a little bit, in that, this isn't going to go on forever. So I really agree with that idea. We got to keep the base there and pass on whatever savings we can do through other budget cuts, pass it on as more or less a one-time savings event. And let's think that we are also going to get back to normal here. So I feel that's I'd much rather have those targeted savings to the community than to broadly benefit all the lakeshore homeowners and such. But I could add, I don't see that scenario there. There's a 2% and a 0% increase, but there isn't sort of a where we stand with the planned 4% increase. I guess we could pencil that in.
So, yeah, sorry, Councillor Barkwell. Basically, it would be scenario 3 with revenues increasing by an additional 2%, which is 87, so $174,000.
Councillor Trainer?
I'm not sure if Councillor Holmes was next, but you're okay? Okay, I'll go. I saw the letter that Penticton sent out to Fortis BC, and I think we were sending one as well. do we know, do we have an expectation on when they might get back to us? And if they come back with some kind of reduction for us, how would that impact our decision today? How might it impact?
Or maybe get Jeremy and Dave to respond to that. Jeremy's been in contact with all the municipalities, so he can provide a bit of an update as well.
Would you like me to go first, Dave?
Yeah, if you want to speak to the potential when we're gonna get a response, and I can potentially speak to the financial implications.
So we've been meeting every week, the other general managers of the 4 other electric utilities, and for now, all of them are sort of holding off on any sort of BC Hydro matching of BC Hydro's offer, excluding the city of New West. So they're in a slightly different situation where they're surrounded by BC Hydro. They're right within the BC Hydro service territory, so there's a lot more pressure on them for that. I haven't heard from David how many calls we've been getting requesting that, but we've been offering deferred payments if someone calls in and can't pay. So in that regard, we're essentially offering this similar program. It's just not necessarily advertised. There's some interesting things going on in the BC MEU. For instance, Nelson is doing the same thing that we are, but on top of that, they're also doing some side things. So when folks call in and they're having some financial issues, they're sort of giving them a blanket statement that yes, we can defer your payments, but also they have some small programs that they're doing. They're encouraging that customer to do some efficiency upgrades. They're offering free weather stripping. They're offering free smart thermostats, and it's all in an effort. It's all part of the communication that you control your consumption, and you can do things to lower your energy bill yourself without needing relief. So that's possible to cut back on some of your energy usage, and maybe while you're home, here's all the weather stripping. They have a deal with the local hardware stores, and that all that stuff's being dropped off at people's homes. And so it's kind of a side benefit, so it'll help people more in the long run, but it's an interesting approach, and why not? Grand Forks is kind of an exception. They don't have, they're not, for their electric utility, they are not offering any waiving of fees, late fees, that sort of thing, only on their water and sewer utilities. So they have consciously excluded electrical for that. And I can't expand on why. That's just that was their decision. Penticton's essentially doing the same thing that we are. What else would you like me to expand on there, Anthony?
No, I think that's good, Jeremy. Any other questions for Jeremy or Dave? Do you want to follow up on Councillor Trainer's question?
Yes. So if there's no other questions on that side of things, I guess from a financial perspective, Councillor Trainer, if Fortis was to come back and provide the district with, not only the district, but the other BCMEUs with some decrease in cost, I could see probably a direction from council that we take those savings and pass them on to the residents through either a one-time rate reduction or some type of mechanism to make sure that the money gets back to the residents and not with the district. So I can't. So go ahead.
I was just going to interject there. For Fortis, it's unlikely that they're going to offer us a discount. They have not put that in front of the BC Utilities Commission to date. they do have a rate filing in with the BC Utilities Commission. It does not include their wholesale customers. We're excluded from it. It's for their residential rate classes and their commercial rate classes, and does not even have mention of us. And I did bring that up with them during a conference call a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago now. Time's flying really fast here now. And Fortis had said that if they were to include us, they would not include it in that rate filing. They would want to do a separate rate filing. And then we discussed it offline as the general managers, and we weren't sure we wanted them to even do that. So that decision hasn't been made. We haven't officially asked Fortis to include us in a discount. Our concern is that if we do that, and we'd need to talk to our respective councils anyway, but if we were to ask them to give us a discount, then when all of this is over and Fortis is looking to recover costs, we might be included in all of that cost recovery and see a rate rider on our wholesale amounts. And so if we get hit with a rate rider, is it done fairly for Summerland as one of the smallest of the utilities? And is it done fairly with respect to the wholesale customers versus their residential customers and their commercial customers? So all very complicated and going to take a lot of legal counsel to make sure that's all done right. And do we have a strong enough voice amongst all of the voices to make sure that we're looked after in a fair manner? So if we're left out of it completely, though, at least we can say, hey, we never received any discounts. So no rate rider for us. So there is that side of it. And I mean, it's a complicated issue, but for right now, Fortis has not offered anything, and they have not gone to the Utilities Commission to provide us with a discount. And we have not asked them to do that at this point.
Are there any other questions related to what's on the table of discussion right now? With the okay, so I'll go to Councillor Holmes first because I have him written down, and then to Councillor Patton.
I have another question that's not related to this, but just related to this. What's a rate rider?
A rate rider is when something like this happens, typically instead of increasing, say your residential rate is 10 cents per kilowatt hour, instead of increasing it to 11 cents, it's still 10 cents plus a 1 cent rate rider. And that's something that is sort of identified. This is a rate rider for this situation, or it's a rate rider on this particular class because there was a failure of a major asset, or there was a new transmission line we needed to build. So we're going to add a rate rider on so people can see on their bill that, yes, this amount that you're paying on your electric bill is for this particular thing. So they call it a rate rider. So it'd be a COVID-19 rate rider. In all likelihood, that ratepayers are probably going to see on their BC Hydro bills and on their Fortis bills if it's recovered through rates. But who can say for sure what they'll do?
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our Director of Finance, I noticed in all three scenarios for the electrical that we talk about a 10% discount until December 31. So is that a 10% discount off your electrical even for folks that don't pay early? Like, are we looking at a 10% reduction?
So what that 10% is, Councillor Patton, is currently the district offers the 10% discount to all ratepayers for all utility payments, electrical being part of that, if they pay by the due date. So what the scenarios take into account is that everybody is going to, by extending the due dates and the discount date to December 31st, theoretically everyone will be able to take advantage of that discount. So they'll only have to pay the lesser amount of their bills and not the higher amount. So that's what that takes into account.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Barkwell?
Yes, I really like that suggestion. I remember a discussion we had at one time earlier about who doesn't take advantage of that discount. And, you know, it often seems like those who should be the most are the ones who don't. So I think that will be of benefit to those that need it the most.
Councillor Holmes?
I guess we don't really have any expectation on how many people would wait till December to pay their bill and how many people would still pay on time. I guess people on direct debit would continue, you know, paying. But do we in any way want to encourage people who can pay on time to continue paying on time, rather than everybody just kind of banking that, you know, so that we're not left high and dry?
I think that is a fabulous idea, and one that when council makes a decision as to how you want to move forward from a messaging perspective, I feel it would be a very good move to put that out there, to say, you know, that those residents that still can afford to make their payments on time, that they do so, because the district still has operating costs that we have to pay, and that cash flow is vital. So not only from the utility side of things, but also from the property tax side of things, those residents that can still afford to make the property tax payments should still make those payments, because it will benefit the district as a whole. We can then continue to move forward with certain projects. We can still move forward with keeping the district operating. So absolutely, from a messaging perspective, once a decision is made, that should be a vital and key component of anything that is put out into the public.
I have another question, if I may.
Is it related to this, Councillor Holmes?
No, it's to do with property taxes.
Okay, could I go back? Could I put you on hold for a second?
Yep.
Because Councillor Barkwell also has his hand raised.
Okay.
Along the lines of who would take advantage of this discount, I think maybe one suggestion would be to suggest that make it a automatic that you get the discount, or no, you waive the penalty, but you have to actively phone us or email us and ask for it. So make it proactive, rather than simply withholding payment and not getting penalized. You make people do that extra step to ask for the penalty to be waived, and I think you would get a few less taking advantage of it, you know, not paying till Christmas.
Could I ask a question related to that, Dave? How does that impact administratively? Because obviously, if it's taking up a whole lot more of your time and your staff's time, or Anthony's staff time, it you know, it doesn't really make sense. If we communicate that, you know, if you're able to, and you know, I guess empower the people to make the right choice. If they're able to do that, then that might be a better way to go about it. Not that I'm discounting what you said, Councillor Barkwell, but I'm worried that it might, you know, backfire in terms of actual expense. Could you comment on that, Dave?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was actually, the chipmunk was running around in my head after Councillor Barkwell had made the statement. Administratively, it would definitely, we are receiving calls daily from residents asking to defer payments. So that's already happening. And what we're currently trying to do is, put their names on a list that they've actually called and kind of reassure them that we will not be cutting services off, and that once council makes a decision, it will get rolled out into the public so that everyone understands what's going to be happening. To have, once a decision is made, to then have people have to call in and ask us to defer payments will definitely become more of an administrative burden on staff. And we have made some staffing reductions within the district right now on the administrative side of things that could potentially, well, it would hamper who we currently have left to actually do all of this work. So I don't know if that approach would maybe be the best from a use of staff's time per se. I think it all comes down, a large component of this or whatever your decision is going to be is how it gets communicated in the public and on our website and in all the different media outlets that are out there. I think messaging is key. I think people realize that, I would hope that people realize that, even if they're having deferred payments to the end of the year, they're still going to realize that at the end of the year, if they defer all their payments, they're going to have a really expensive payment come January 1st or January 2nd. And I feel that the majority of residents understand that. They're just looking for some short-term relief while they're either not working or their wages have been reduced. And I feel, based on your guys' direction, this is extending this 10% to the end of the year is most beneficial to all residents of Summerland.
Thank you. Next up is Councillor Traynor, followed by Councillor Van Elfen.
I think something else to consider is that the people who really need this discount are probably already spending a lot of time on the phone talking to the provincial and federal governments. And so, I think if we made them call in, that's just another step that they have to do at our level. So I think that it's much better to just apply the 10% to everyone. And I think that people who can pay will continue to pay. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, if we can take any steps away and help the people who are already struggling right now by reducing the amount that they have to, think about, I think that would be a really good thing.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question through our Director of Finance. And it's a bit of a sidebar note, but if we have that many people phoning in, is this an opportunity to educate folks to see if we can get them to sign up online for payments, which will be a benefit in the future for the electric or for the finance department? Are we having that conversation with folks, at the same time?
We are absolutely trying to get as many people to not only sign up for online banking, but to also sign on for online utility bill payment or to receive their utility bills through online means. I've actually been quite surprised with the amount of people that do not want to sign up for online for various reasons. We do see quite a lot of people coming to Municipal Hall and using the drop box and still using canceled checks or paying with cash even still. But with all of the different phone calls that we are receiving, we are definitely, staff has been instructed to try to get as many people to sign up for any online type of payment or receiving a V-bill. Absolutely, that is first and foremost in in what we're telling people.
Okay, Councillor Holmes, do you have another question about electrical, or are we ready to go on to something else? Councillor Holmes, are we?
No, I want to ask something about taxes, if I may, please.
Okay, I'll just ask again, is there anybody else that wants to talk about the electrical discussion that we've been having? Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Thank you. So of the 4% tax increase, about 1% of that was due to go into reserves. Is that still the case under the current scenario?
Good question. I'm just going to pull it up. Based on no, it is not. So in scenarios, so the proposed amount that was to be put into reserves was just, how much was it? It was 0.88%, which equated to $76,600. So looking at the summary documents you have in front of you, looking at the general fund, you'll note that near the bottom of the page, there's a transfer to reserve line. So the budget was 1.697 million, and all of the transfers have been reduced by that 0.88%. So to answer your question, Councillor Holmes, no, the projections in front of you do not take into account that transfer into the reserve this year.
So we're not looking at transferring anything into reserves, right?
We still are looking at transferring about depending on which scenario we're looking at, between 1.6 and 1.5.
No increase into reserves, I mean.
Yeah, that 0.8% that council had allocated, we for this year, and based on these projections, we're not planning, we're not anticipating to do that.
Okay, thank you.
A follow-up question to Councillor Holmes's question, then, when you mentioned that you're not recommending a reduction in tax rate, you're talking about, are you still talking about the 4%, which is my understanding, or are you talking about 3.12%, given that we're not transferring that 0.88?
I'm still speaking about the 4%, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
And the big thing there is when we look at not only the organization, well, if we're looking at the general fund, the amount of revenues that we're projecting to decrease is more than what we're projecting in cost savings on the revenue side. So that's why there's no balance there. We're anticipating more of a loss than we are in saving.
Thank you for that explanation. Personally, I think it's a good idea to have, I mean, this is why council wanted to have that in the first place, even though it's less than what we typically have put in the last few years. We're going to get through this sooner or later, and I think it's important to recognize that capital projects through asset management they're not ever going to go away. So even if we put a reduced amount in this year, I think it's important to keep that amount in. Any other questions? Councillor Carlson, you're back now. Do you have any questions about either the electrical utility or now we've started talking about property taxes? But
yeah, I've been listening. And I don't have any questions. I appreciate all of the information and all the work that's being done right now.
Good. Thank you so much, Councillor Carlson. Any other questions? Um, I have a couple of questions related to your introduction, Dave. When you spoke about the industrial class, and this is the bulletin that we got from the province yesterday, industrial class 4 to 8, sorry, classes 4 to 8, commercial classes. That includes the industrial class, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to hear. And another question was, and this wasn't in this bulletin, but we heard it earlier, I believe, that is it residences, like residential classes that get the 50% cut in school taxes?
No, Madam Mayor. As of right now, class 1 residential properties, there is no reduction in school tax rates.
Oh, I thought there was. Okay.
No.
All right. And just this morning, the Prime Minister was talking about more programs and funding going into keeping people employed. So they're employer-related programs. So that will help again. Yeah, I think that was all the things I wanted to comment on. I see your hand up now, Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, I just wanted to check how we're going to go about things here. After we finish sort of discussions on taxation, are we then going to go down through the expenditure items and talk about which things where we're cutting back on and which things we're not and such?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I guess. That's the process we're going to.
Okay. Well, I will pass that through to Anthony and see what his thoughts are on this.
Yeah, for sure. I think Dave's presented the budget in its entirety with some recommendations, so we definitely want to have all those discussions. But if council have got any questions on each of those line items, we're more than happy to answer those. I think, Dave, from any perspectives.
Yeah, we can definitely answer any questions. I wasn't anticipating going through the operational cost savings line by line, but if there are questions that council may have, we can probably try to answer those.
I have a question before we get onto the operational, if there are any questions there. I just wanted to ask you, Dave, on the water recommendation and the scenarios that are there, I think I read, see if I can find it again. I think I read that scenario 3 was a reduction in residential consumption from June to August. Page 10 of the agenda, 5 of your report. I'm wondering, and I'm sorry, I meant to ask you this before the meeting, like a few days ago. Do you still have your magical spreadsheet?
I do, Madam Mayor.
I can't see that you would get rid of that work of art.
It's in copyright mode right now.
Patent pending, right? I'm wondering if, I don't see in these scenarios exactly what we talked about. Could you do another scenario and just tell us the impacts of not having water utility billings for the months of July and August?
At all?
Well, Council, can you remind me what it is? I know that July and August is right because I remember bringing that up, but I'm wondering if it was at all or if it was at the 15%. Councillor Trainer, could you help me out with this?
I think it was some kind of reduction because initially we were going to do April or May. Oh, David knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
Thank you.
So scenario 3 actually takes into account the conversation the council had in regard to looking at a reduction in the water rates in July and August.
Yes.
And I think the conversation and the thought process was with people potentially planting, increasing their gardens and using more water in those months, what a reduction in the rate for those 2 months would look like. So scenario 3 currently takes that into account with a 25% rate reduction in July and August.
Oh, that's not what it says in the report. Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, I looked at the 15%.
That's consumption.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused now. So it shows 15% in residential consumption from June to August.
Mhm.
And the line below that shows 25% reduction in residential water rates for July and August, which is what we talked about.
Yeah,
But
so
15%?
So the 15% is consumption, so the actual usage.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. So that's exactly what we had talked about.
Yeah.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. So that's the only other question I had on utilities and or property tax. Are there any other questions? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. We also talked about the idea of having for property tax having two kind of penalty periods. One earlier one at 5%, and then a later one at 10%. And I thought that was kind of an interesting idea, and I'm just wondering if the reasons why you didn't that wasn't considered.
Part of the reason that it wasn't considered is just looking at the province as a whole. There haven't been too many municipalities that are moving towards that that scheme. But I think a bigger reason was based on some of the conversations that I had heard with council over the past couple of weeks in regards to this. By not having that penalty or by reducing that penalty, it does provide less incentive, I guess, for people who can actually make their payments to make their payments. So as staff, we are not recommending tiering it, but again, it really is up to council's discretion. The savings, the calculated savings, the $168, by extending that penalty, or sorry, the due date from July to September, if council was to stagger like a 5% and a 5%, of course those savings then would decrease by roughly half, because the penalty then would only be 5%. So really they're only potentially saving half of that.
I guess if I just may follow up on that, I think people who like September 4th isn't, people could still be in a lot of trouble by September 4th, and they need some extra time. Whereas people who don't need that extra time and are able to pay will pay just to save the 5%, and then we're just penalizing the people who really need a little bit of extra time even more. I just think it'd be a little bit. It'll way to help out a little bit people who really need a bit of extra time, because we don't know if we're going to be through this by September 4th or not. That's why I like the idea, but I'm easy either way.
If I can make one comment, and it has council's decision is council's decision, absolutely. I did have a conference, or not a conference call. I did have a phone call with one of the financial analysts at the province this morning, because I was trying to reconcile how the province was looking at an October 1st mandate with not charging people interest and penalties for commercial properties, but still leaving the residential and farm due dates as July 2nd. There's definitely a disconnect there, and a lot of our financial systems can't take that into effect. And of course, the province is changing things on a daily basis. But what was an interesting point from the analyst was that, you know, they are still asked, from a municipality's perspective, they still are hoping that when we're putting our bylaws and things together, that we do keep them as simple as possible, just by having a whole bunch of different penalty dates and due dates, and things can get extremely confusing. And especially with the province making changes, it seems like on a daily basis. So that's the only other thing I would add there, is from an ease of use perspective, a one-time penalty date as opposed to staggering it 2 different dates is definitely easier. But again, completely up to council's discretion.
Councillor Barkwell?
Excuse me, yeah, it is a trade-off, just like the requiring people to phone in in order to get the deferral. You know, that trade-off there. But along that, what Councillor Holmes says, you know, August or September 1st, yeah, you know, could we consider, and for the sake of simplicity, extending that to the same date as the province for commercial taxes, and give a deferral to October 1st? Wouldn't that be simpler overall? And isn't that, wasn't it that didn't you say last time that the computer system just wasn't really set up to do a 2-type penalty thing? Anyhow, I mean, it's a cash flow management issue for David too.
Dave?
So to answer the question in regards to the October 1st deadline, part of the problem we're running into is municipalities. The legislation notes that tax sale deadlines. So if a property is in arrears of more than 2 years, the tax sale deadline is always, I think it's the 3rd Monday of September. So and this is just my thought process, but I feel that the province has pushed back the due date for commercial properties, specifically to October 1st, and keeping residential properties and farm properties still at July 2nd is because of that tax deadline, that tax sale deadline. So if council was to move ahead and say, you know what, all classes, class 1 through 9, we're going to extend the deadline to October 1st. We're now in some contravention with that tax sale deadline, or that tax sale date, which is September, the 3rd Monday in September would be the 21st. So there's a disconnect. So from staff's perspective, we feel that extending the deadline to that September 4th, it still meets our legislative requirements as to having a tax sale on that 3rd Monday in September. And we're gonna have to work with the province to try to figure out how our systems are then going to implement this October 1st date that they've chosen for commercial properties. In regards to the penalty, Councillor Barkwell, our system is set up where we can do a staggered penalty. From a system perspective, it's not an onerous task. It is, as you mentioned, a potential cash flow situation that we could potentially see ourselves in, but systematically we can do that.
Councillor Barkville, can I just wanted to ask Councillor Van Elfen, you've been pretty quiet on this. I was just wondering if the water rates in terms of the ag users, if you're comfortable with that, because that was something that you wanted to have, at one time you wanted to have a bit more discussion on.
No, I would look at scenario 3, the 25% reduction in irrigation rates, which does not include the tiered rate system. And then, if I'm not mistaken, reading further, 10% discount to be applied until December 31st. That's the only part that a little bit confuses me a bit. But the 25% discount for ag users, I think, is extremely very good for the farming community. It's a help. You know, we're trying to help everyone, and we've included all the sectors, and I think that's the important part.
Good. I just wanted to get your take on that. And Councillor Carlson, I'll ask you the same question in terms of helping ag irrigation people.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. It brings our rate back down to what, 2014, 2015 rates. I mean, it's gone up rapidly over the last few years. So hopefully, it doesn't impact the municipality as much as it might help the farmers. I have a question. We're looking at scenario 1, 2, and 3 for all these different utilities. Is the outcome going to be everything scenario 1, everything scenario 2, everything scenario 3, or is there an option to do a mix? Like, is there a mix match going on here? Potentially, like we could do scenario 2 from the electrical and scenario 3 from the water, for example, or are we looking at, is it all, yeah, that, thanks.
Across the board. Dave?
The scenarios are there just to provide council with some scenarios. These are what could potentially happen based on the different criteria that has been established in each one. So yeah, you could definitely take a scenario 1 in water and a scenario 3 in electric, and those are just projections. Those are our, based on the data and the information we have. That's what those are. They're just trying to provide council with some information and some financial numbers as to, this is where, if all of these things come true and we see these rate reductions and we see this consumption reduction and everything else, this is what the financial impact on the district is going to be.
So most likely then, if we see scenario 3 in water, we're going to see scenario 3 in electrical when it comes to consumption and availability of people to pay and all of that stuff. Is that
from a people making payments? Yes, absolutely. From a consumption perspective, maybe not. You know, people could potentially have an increase in their water usage, but a decrease on their electrical side. Like, I don't know if those two maybe go hand in hand, but again, the different scenarios can be moved around all over the board and mismatched with the different utility funds, and it's really just trying to provide council with some financial information based on the data that we currently have and the projections that we're currently looking at. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm sorry, but
it does, and I'll let someone else continue that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Barkville, thank you for your patience.
Going back to the, I guess you might call them technical difficulties we have with extending the property tax due date to October, could we do a bylaw that said taxes are due on September 4th, and if not paid by October 4th, there will be a 10% penalty?
I would have to check the legislation. Normally the penalty date is always the day after the due date. I think I can see a reasoning as to why you'd want to do that. Yeah, I think that is possible, but I would have to check the legislation.
That would sort of resolve that issue and give us the extension that Councillor Holmes was suggesting might be more necessary. But yeah.
Yeah, I sorry, Councillor, I have to check. I'd have to check. But I guess the thought process. I guess my question: what would? Yeah. What's the? I guess what's the outcome that you're looking for there?
Just that those who are still in dire straits in early September, let's say this continues through the summer, and you know, the same reasoning that Councillor Holm has had for his staggered system was that to give people that need it a bit more of a break, because they might not be back to, or maybe only back to work for a month or two. And I throw October out there, maybe they could be due on September 4th and a penalty won't apply until October 30th or something, whatever council felt.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have to check the legislation on that, Councillor.
Okay. I mean, maybe you don't need to if council doesn't really want to be that generous. Maybe we can canvass.
Council, thoughts on this? Councillor Traynor?
I just have a more general question, and I'm not suggesting we do this by any means, but I was just reviewing the Chamber's letter that the Chamber of Commerce sent us, and one thing that they had asked about is deferring property taxes for classes 3 to 9 until December 31st. I'm just wondering, did we, I can't remember in our discussions, did we ever consider different pay dates for residential versus business? And is that even possible? I can't remember if that's been in any of our discussions over the last while.
We did not have that conversation. It is doable. But again, I go back to the conversation I had with the ministry. The more due dates and the more things we start throwing into our bylaw, the more complicated it's going to be, and the more onerous on everybody, not just staff, but residents as well. What's being proposed and recommended by staff is that, you know, the due date be extended to September 4th. So not to December 31st, as the chamber is asking. But again, the province just came out yesterday saying that we can't apply penalties now until October 1st. And again, I'm not sure how that is going to work. I don't think the province knows yet because they just came out with it yesterday. It's all a work in progress. So how we can have a certain tax deadline, be it the 4th or whatever that date is, but now the province is imposing that we can't charge penalties till the 1st. So we're still going through. It just came out yesterday, so we're trying to figure out how all of this is going to work, even within our own systems. So there's a lot of confusion right now within municipal finance organizations as to how we're going to try to reconcile what the province now is mandating and what our systems can actually do. So, but to go out and as a municipality, yes, we can do those things, but it is going to become that much more complex, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, and I just have to follow up quickly on that. So if we were to make the final date October 1st, which was in line with the commercial rates that the province had just come out with, you said yesterday, the reason that we couldn't do that was because of a property sale deadline that was in October, right? Or sorry, in September. That's
the third Monday in September, based on legislation, is when the property tax sale date has to occur.
okay, and they haven't changed that yet.
They have not changed that,
Okay.
and I believe that's why they one of the reasons they left Class 1 and Class 9 out of their circular yesterday was
Okay.
partially due to that date.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Traynor. Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Holmes.
So I'm wondering if it's better to, when we're talking about messaging, to tell our citizens that we intend to extend the date, but we're waiting to hear from the province what, they need to have some, like you said, they're changing things every day. Maybe tomorrow they'll say, we're changing the tax sale date to the end of the year as well. So instead of putting out September 4th today, maybe we can wait and say, we're going to change our tax deadline or our payment deadline. However, we're not exactly sure what that date is yet, just to let people know that they're, like, is that not an option at all or not?
Councillor Carson, that in theory that is an excellent idea. Part of the issues we're running into right now is property tax notices need to start going to the printers. Like we're running into administrative things that have to be done, and we really can't push them off until the province makes their final decisions.
Okay.
So it's a really challenging time right now for us.
Yeah.
And what we're hoping for today is to get some direction from council in regards to like the property taxes and where you guys want to see some financial assistance and those types of things, so that we can get moving on those. And then as the province starts making more changes, which I think they probably will, we can then incorporate those however best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go to Councillor Holmes, Dave, just for clarity, we're talking about deferring the penalty date to September 4th, not the payment of taxes, correct?
Both.
Both. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So along the same lines, I think there's nothing wrong with setting September 4th as the date now, but given the daily changes and the confusion and everything, we can always revisit it later in the summer if we feel we need to. Just like we'll probably need to revisit everything. We'll have to take stock on whether our recreation facilities can be opened and all that kind, all kinds of things. So is there anything stopping us saying, okay, we've set September 4th as the date. We'll revisit it all later in the summer, but as of right now, September 4th is the deadline.
I don't feel there's anything stopping council from revisiting the date at a future point in time. Once the tax rates have been set, I would not, well, I would not recommend making any changes because the property tax notices would have already been sent out with all of the calculations and everything. So once the numbers are set, I really don't feel going backwards is an option, or making any changes is an option. From the date itself, the property tax notices do show that what the due date is. So if council was to make a change on the due date at some point after the notices have been printed and sent, it comes down to how we let our residents know, and because there could be some significant confusion out there then. You know, the tax notice says this is the date, now you're telling me this is the date. There could be some confusion, but from a date perspective, I don't see why we couldn't revisit that.
Councillor Carlson?
So, are there other municipalities that have set a date after September 21st?
None that I know of.
Okay, thank you. Then I guess we shouldn't start anything like that then.
What I've been hearing and seeing is that a lot of people that had a kind of July 2nd, they're pushing it out to the September 4th. Penticton is looking, I believe, at, because their due date has always been July 31st. So they're looking at extending that by a little bit into September as well, but not past the tax sale date.
So just to follow that then, the issue from the province of October for commercial, is that mandated, or can commercial also be September 4th? And then we can...
Commercial, my recommendation would be to set the tax due date deadline for everybody as of September 4th.
That's what I think.
And that what the province is telling us is that we cannot charge class 4 through 8 any interest or penalties until October 1st.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation then, or my suggestion, if we keep it all the same date, but it as late as possible, but not beyond the 21st of September, and make sure commercial is included in that same deadline. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, we've had a great discussion. Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell.
So isn't what the province is saying for the commercial industrial just a part, you know, like you know, what I suggest, why not, if they say due September 4th, no interest or and penalties until October. So I'm just suggesting we extend that benefit to all classes that the province seems to have mandated to the commercial and industrial. And maybe that would even be simpler administratively. Thoughts? Shaking their head, maybe.
I'm trying to run it through my head. Yeah, it systematically probably would be easy. Yeah, probably.
Councillor Carlson?
It does that, it still puts people paying their taxes after the tax sale date though. So that, right, I mean, you put a deadline in front of the date, but if you don't, people decide they don't have to pay till October 3rd, how does that impact your sale deadline?
Basically, excuse me. Basically, what that's going to do is once the due date hits, that triggers the 3rd year of arrears because they haven't made the payment by the due date. So that would be the trigger of having a property go up for tax sale. And as long as we got payment by the Monday, Yeah, I could see that working. I'm just hoping I'm not missing something that's vital here. Bear with me, sorry. So there's just a lag between the due date and when interest and penalty charges would be potentially put on, but that wouldn't affect the tax sale at all because those properties would have already missed paying their taxes on time. So then it's just interest and penalty. Yeah, no, I don't foresee any issues with that. If council was to decide to set a property tax deadline of September 4th, but deferring any interest and penalty charges until October 1st. I don't feel that would hinder anything on the tax sale side of things. As I talk that through my head.
Thank you, Dave. It was very interesting watching you go through the thought process and the questions you were asking yourself, but asking out loud. Very interesting. Thank you for that.
I'll turn my video off.
No, not a problem. It was good to hear you go through that, and we have an answer. So I guess it really does come down to what council decides, and unless there are more questions, I would suggest that we start talking about what we'd like to see. Could I just have some nods if you're in agreement with that? Okay, we're good to go. Thank you. So getting back to the resolutions. I have to find them again here. There's the real one. Okay, so we have 5 resolutions. The first one is easy, just receive for information. But I'm wondering if we should go through these individually.
I think from a clarity perspective, Madam Mayor, and just so to ensure everyone is on the same page, it would probably best to do each resolution separately, just to make sure everyone is clear and that I don't make any mistakes on this end either.
Good, so thanks for that verification. So the first resolution, that the report from the Director of Finance titled, dated, be received for information. Could I have someone bring that one forward, please? Councillor Carlson, Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion on receiving it for information? All in favor? Any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. On to item 2, that staff prepare the 2020 property tax bylaw for presentation to council with the property tax notice remittance due date extended from July 3rd to, and I'm going to leave it open for whoever brings this motion forward. Councillor Holmes, thank you.
Extended to September 4th, 2020, but defer any interest and penalty charges to October 1st, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Seconded by Councillor Carlson. Now open for discussion. Any further discussion on this? On the amended resolution, Councillor Patton, followed by Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. David, is this extension of a month going to have any major impacts on cash flow coming into the municipality? The reason I ask this is because if before, okay, it was September, the next day we went into penalties, so taxes were due. Now we're saying, okay, well, taxes are due, but the penalties aren't going to be for another month. Can you foresee some significant financial implications that are really going to affect our cash flow as a municipality based on not being able to, another 30-day extension, so to speak, in that money's coming in?
I definitely foresee people taking full advantage of, although the due date is the 4th, I'm not going to get dinged a penalty till the 1st, so I'm not going to pay until the 1st. So I definitely foresee some cash flow issues in that month between September 4th and October 1st. And historically, we see a lot of our residents here in Summerland hold off till that last second to make their payments. So we see, like, historically, June, that last week of June, or sorry, that first week of July is extremely busy, and we process a ton of payments. So by extending that penalty to the 1st, yes, what you're doing is providing residents with an additional month to make any payments without a penalty. So we will see cash flow issues. How that's going to affect operations, depending on where we're at when we're looking at our capital budgets and those types of things, and if we're going to be deferring projects and those type, into 2021, it may not have a significant impact on our overall cash. But that one is really hard to answer, Councillor Patton. But we will see a reduced cash flow in that month. That I could guarantee you.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen, you're next, followed by Councillor Barkwell.
You have to unmute, Marty.
Sorry, thank you. So the due date is September 4th, and then we extend it with no penalty. We talked about it earlier. Can we get the messaging out there? We're doing this because of the pandemic. This is why we're trying to help. But if you can pay on the due date, would you please do so? Like, we got to get a message out there somehow, so like people don't take advantage of it. You hope some will, but maybe some won't. But I think we need to try to get the messaging out there. Thank you.
Dave, did you want to respond to that?
Not so much a response. I feel that the only other comment I wanted to make, and I should have mentioned it earlier, and I apologize that I didn't, is that council will recall that when we look at the tax base here in Summerland, it's very unevenly distributed between residential homes and all the other classes. So when we look at our tax bills, between 86 and 88% of our tax revenue is received from residential homes. So that could have significant impact. That additional month could have a significant impact on when we actually receive our cash. So I just I should have mentioned it earlier. I'm sorry I didn't, but that should be put out there as well.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell, and then I have a question.
A question for David. The province announced yesterday, maybe it was, some additional measures they thought would help municipalities with managing their cash flow, borrowing against their capital reserves or something like that. Are they of any real benefit, or is it just sort of technically potentially beneficial? Or
I feel the benefit to the district is only where it comes to cash flow. By allowing us now to, use capital reserves and taking on additional debt, and those definitely help the district from a cash flow perspective. We can, if we are running into cash shortages, we can use those sources to make payments. What the province, we have to pay that back.
So that's what we're talking about here, right? Is whether the cash flow problem from extending it for another month, or actually we're extending for like 3 or 4 months. So those cash flow problems can be handled through that additional measure is what I'm hearing.
I think if the district was to go into a position where, you know, we start borrowing out of our reserves and, you know, trying to keep our cash flows going, then we have to look at, okay, how are we now going to pay all that back? If we borrow $500,000 out of our water reserve, how are we going to pay that back? And in reality, rate increases and property tax increases are the only way we're going to get more money coming in to replenish those reserves. So it's a difficult position. You know, the province is not giving the districts or any municipality any actual money like they are to commercial properties and businesses and residences. They're allowing us to, you know, go into debt, borrow, those types of things. But at the end of the day, we have to pay that back somehow.
You're going into an area where I wasn't really, you know, addressing. I was just speaking to the issue of that Councillor Patton brought up of extending the payment date from September 4th to October 1st, and the concern that, well, you know, that's another month. A lot of people, maybe half the people will wait until October 4th. So dipping into or borrowing from those funds isn't really an issue because you know you're going to repay them October 1st. It's not like we're borrowing it for additional expenditures or anything. It's merely a timing question. So I think that would satisfy, you know, any issues we have with just extending dates.
Anthony?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think and Dave, correct me, but the work we've done on the operating reductions and even through some of the organizational change, we're going to have to keep an eye on how revenues are coming in. We've got the projections that have been put in place to the best of our ability, and the changes that we've made have built somewhat of a buffer over the next 6 months, I guess, out to the end of the year. But I think we're going to have to obviously keep an eye on those revenue projections that we've put in place. And if we have to come back to Council Dave closer to September, if there are significant differences in what was projected, then that may have to be the case.
Thank you, Anthony. Richard, could I ask you to just put your phone on your, not your phone, you know what I mean. Thank you. Doug, Councillor Patton, I know that you had a question. I just wanted to ask my question in between there, mostly because it's related exactly to what Councillor Barkle just raised. Yesterday at RDOS, and we do this every year, especially this year, we passed municipal borrowing bylaw just to get the RDOS over the hump. I'm wondering, we did that, even we did that on a short-term basis for a month, say. I understand that that's possible to do that, but I guess my question is, Dave, having been in this scenario, both at the District of Summerland and your previous place of employment, what is it like in terms of, other than people coming in just that at the last minute, at the very beginning of July and getting their property taxes paid, what is your sense on if we extended it from September the 4th to October the 1st, what is your sense for the penalty part? What is your sense on how many people would, you know, I guess, sorry, I'm having a hard time getting this out. What do you think would be the impact in terms of people saying, well, I couldn't afford it September the 4th. I still can't afford it October the 1st. Are we in a situation where it could be even more of an impact on our cash flow?
It's really hard to answer that question, Madam Mayor. Trying to predict people's financial situations is really difficult. I guess when I look at it, you know, there still are people that are making their monthly pre-authorized payments to their taxes. There are people who, through their mortgage, are making property tax payments to their bank as part of their mortgage payments. So we would anticipate that those payments would come in on the due date, whatever that date is, July 3rd or September 4th, whatever the date's going to be. It's all those other ones that I don't even want to try and guess, because trying to guess people's financial situations is extremely difficult. And I honestly couldn't tell you how many wouldn't be able to even hit the October 1st deadline. I do know that there definitely will be some people that are going to take advantage of the additional month just to hold on to their money for that one more month. We will definitely see that. But how many of those are cognizant choices and how many are just because people can't make payments, I honestly cannot even try to guess.
All right, thank you. Councillor Patton, thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to kind of segue in what you were talking about. I have a real problem in putting our municipality into a bigger financial impact than we are and saying, okay, well, we're going to extend it until October, but hey, you know what? We can get some short-term loan benefit from the province to cover our cash flow problem. I'm thinking people, if they can't make it by the September 4th, they're not going to make it by October 4th. They're going to take advantage of the penalty being the 10%, because then they have up to a year to pay for those taxes. Granted, there's a penalty there, but I don't think that going from September 4th till October, the beginning of October, is going to be a great benefit for the majority. I think, yes, some are, but I think you know, what we're doing here is looking how we can save people money. I don't want to save our citizens a bunch of money, and then on the other hand, we're going into a borrowing scenario where we're going to hit them even harder, you know, in 2021, 2022 to make up for some short-term relief that we're talking 30 days. And so I think that we're following the line with all the other municipalities for September. And I think that we should stay the same as the other municipalities. And I think we're still going to be into a cash flow issue come September, but then we can deal with it, and we haven't made additional concessions. So that's just my 25 cents in regards to it. Thanks for letting me rant.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Patton. Good points. Councillor Holmes.
We're only talking about a month difference here, and yeah, the majority of people won't see any benefit from it. But even if there's just a handful of people who can hang on to their property, whatever, help them get through this a little bit more. That's what this is all about, is just helping whoever we can just a little bit more to get through all this. And so I you know, change, if we have to borrow money, we're just borrowing the money from ourselves, from our reserves, and which we pay, as Councillor Barkwell said, that which will go back in a month later once we get all those tax dollars in. We'll get the same amount whether the deadline's September 1st or October 1st, we're going to get the same amount of money in just a month later, you know? And so it's just giving those people who do need it, and yes, some people will take advantage of it, but if we can just help a few more people by giving them a little bit more time, then and it's no skin off our teeth, really. You know, why, I don't understand why we wouldn't do that. So.
Okay, we're still talking about the resolution, the amended resolution. Well, it's actually not an amended resolution, sorry. Is there any further discussion on this particular resolution, or is it time to call the question? Karen, I think you're here still somewhere. Yes. Karen, could I have you reread the resolution that Councillor Holmes has put forward, please?
That staff prepare the 2020 property tax bylaw for presentation to council with the property tax notice remittance due date extended from July 3rd to September 4th, 2020, but defer any penalties to October 1st, 2020.
Thank you. Just want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I see all of council on the first screen. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? I am the only one opposed. So that carries. On to resolution 3, or recommendation 3, that staff prepare the 2020 property tax bylaw for presentation to council with a blank property tax increase. Is there somebody on council that would like to bring forward that one, inserting the percentage? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That staff prepare the 2020 property tax bylaw for presentation to council with a 4% property tax increase.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Barkwell. Any discussion on this? All in favor? And any opposed? That carries unanimously. On to number 4, that staff extend the 10% utility billing discount until December the 31st. Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Seconder, Councillor Patton. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. And the final one, at least as it's written, that staff continue to work with municipally owned electrical utilities and Fortis BC to reduce the district's cost of purchasing power and provide residents with electrical utility savings associated with any related Fortis BC rate decrease. Now, please take into account the conversation that we had earlier. Councillor Carlson, you're moving that. Seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. And further discussion on this one. All right, all in favor? Oh, Councillor, you were just putting your hand up, Councillor Van Elfen, to vote.
Just a comment, if I may, if Jeremy's still there. I'm just wondering what BC Utilities Commission is doing because of BC Hydro's premature announcements that they came out with. And is there going to be any penalties levied to BC Hydro for coming out early and not discussing this with the Utilities Commission? If we heard anything on that, that's all. Thank you.
Well, they have certainly skipped the process for setting rates and changing rates. So I expect that the BC Utilities Commission will be directed by the government on what to do for this one. BC Hydro has indicated that they will be recovering their program through rates, and that so we expect that they will have an application before the BCUC to recover that through rates. So, well, I guess we just have to wait and see how that all kind of falls out. Also keep in mind that Penticton just yesterday requested of the province that the BC Hydro amount, if it's to be funded through taxes, that we as the BC MEU receive a one-time payment based on our commercial customers and our residential customer count. So that letter came from Penticton to the province. So that's a little bit in conflict with how the resolution is written before you guys right now, because it's asking us to go to Fortis and ask for some payment relief, which we can do. We have a contract with them, so we can go to them one-on-one, and we can negotiate that outside of the BC UC process. Because we have that contract, we can ask for payment deferral. Although keep in mind, if the resolution is that we do that, there will certainly be a cost associated with it, which we will have to pay. There'll be either some administrative fees or there'll be some interest costs, because they are a business, and those are reasonable costs. So I'm just kind of adding a few things in here that potentially this one might want to wait 3 weeks or so. We can always revisit it. It's still on the table, and I'm already in talks with Fortis, and we're keeping it an open channel. We've been talking about every week, just a little catch up. So they've said that at any point they're ready to have that conversation with us one-on-one. They're not interested in doing it with the BC MEU as a group. If we need some payment relief, they're willing to talk to us on a contractual basis. Our contract is expired with them, or will expire in July, pardon me. And then the only other comment I have on that is if we're asking Fortis for a reduction, to what extent would we want that to be, and is it a payment deferral, or is it based on customer count? So there's a lot of questions there, but I do feel we could wait 3 weeks and revisit that one. But if there's any other questions.
Councillor Barkle and then Councillor Holmes.
As Jeremy said, it's kind of like, unless Fortis is doing cost savings measures of some kind, there's just no way that a cut now we won't have to pay back later. And so the whole thing is kind of pointless unless there's actual true savings to pass on through to us, which seems unlikely. Hydro being quite different, paying surpluses over to the provincial government. If they have reduced surpluses, it just means less money for the government, which means then they got to raise more taxes. And so it's a entirely different situation, and all we can do is sort of go for the ride. And I guess my question to Jeremy is, how would he like the resolution to be worded that gives him the sort of the negotiating freedom that he needs?
I think for now, I would just leave the resolution out. We're already in discussions, and at some point in the future, if council wants us to go for that and get a reduction, David can chime in. We don't have a solvency problem. We're able to make our payments. So at this point in time, not really needed. And we do have an open channel of communication there, so we could just save it for another date.
Dave, would you have a comment?
Just to the solvency comment that Jeremy made. Right now, the district is solvent. We don't anticipate not being able to pay our Fortis bill. in the
Okay.
future.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Yeah, along the same lines, you know, we certainly don't want to tie our hands by passing a motion maybe that might be premature. And my question was, the way the motion is written now, does that, and what Jeremy was saying previously about the rate rider, does that kind of, that almost, what's the connection there? I mean, are we kind of, if we commit passing on any kind of reduction, or are we getting ourselves into that rate rider situation?
Yeah, I see. Like as it's written now, it's for us to continue to work with Fortis to reduce the district's cost of purchasing power. And if we do that, then Fortis is going, say it's a deferral for the next 3 months, so we don't have to pay them for 3 months. That likely wouldn't be resolved through a rate rider because we have a contract with them. We're different than a normal customer. They wouldn't go necessarily to the BC Utilities Commission to give Summerland a rate rider. That wouldn't happen. They would just say to us, okay, your bill over the next 3 months is going to total $1 million and or $1.5 million, and the interest rate on that is going to be this amount, and the administrative fee is going to be some percentage, and I would expect that that's what they would say, and then at the end of 3 months we would have to pay our full bill for those 3 months plus those related costs. So because it's a contract, yeah, it wouldn't be dealt with through a rate rider for this particular ask.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So then would it be appropriate to put a resolution on the floor to table item number 5 and to stand by for further information from our director of, our manager of the electrical utility? If he has further information in the near future, he can pass that on to us and then we can make a decision in the future.
I think Councillor Van Elfen, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Karen, because we already have a motion on the floor, it's probably easier to defeat this motion because we have to vote on it anyways, and then we could make another motion if that's the wish of council. Is that accurate, Karen?
That would be it. That would be correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call the question on this, given what we've just heard from our general manager of the electrical utility. Oh, Councillor Holmes, you have another point of discussion?
Just on that process, that kind of puts me in, and all of us presumably, into an awkward position of doing it that way, because we don't want to necessarily vote against this motion. I'm not opposed to the motion. It's just a timing issue. So couldn't we, rather than having to defeat a motion, which I actually, would like to see go forward, can't we just amend it to be deferred? I don't really see why we would defeat this motion if we support it.
Well, my thought was, and this is why I said, given what we've just heard from our general manager electrical utility, he is suggesting at the request of another councillor what, I think it was Councillor Barkwell, what he would like to see in terms of the resolution, and the way that it's written is not necessarily what he would like to see. So that's why I was suggesting, and also because it's already on the floor, that we defeat this and come forward with a different resolution. That option is there.
Okay.
Again, Karen, I'll ask you to comment.
Madam Mayor, council can vote on this. They could defeat it. They could pass another motion that requests staff to come back with other options for the electrical utility. And that way the defeated motion will be followed by the positive motion for coming back and perhaps with more information from the general manager of the electrical utility.
Further discussion, Councillor Holmes? All good? Okay, so I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Councillor Barkwell? You need to take your thing off mute.
I was asleep at the wheel there for a moment. Sorry.
So that's okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so this motion is defeated. And now if somebody, perhaps Councillor Holmes or anyone, would like to bring forward a new resolution that addresses item 5, then please feel free. Anyone?
Could we have suggestions from Jeremy?
If you know, what you could do is just say that the resolution is that as more information becomes available and the current state of the situation evolves, that the general manager will come forward with that information and provide it for information. Or Anthony.
Councillor Barkwell?
I'll move that as more information concerning electrical rates with Fortis becomes available, that the manager of the electrical utility come forward and present them to council, and that he be directed to continue discussions with other members of the Municipal Electrical Utility Owners Association.
Okay, Councillor Holmes, are you seconding that? Thank you. Karen, you have that written down?
Correct.
Okay, so could I have you read it out and then I'll ask for discussion on it?
Okay. That is more information concerning electrical rates with Fortis becomes available. The general manager of electrical utility bring forward for discussion options, and that the general manager of the electrical utility continue to discuss these options with other municipal providers.
Does that sound good, Councillor Barkwell? Perfect. And it's seconded by Councillor Holmes. So any further discussion on this new number 5? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Great. So everyone has, that's a unanimous vote. So we have finished that. Dave.
So, Madam Mayor, I just want to mention a couple things. So the resolutions that you have all passed now are great. I'll take those and we'll do whatever we need to. However, just so you're aware, if council is looking at any specific reductions in rates, i.e. there was a conversation earlier about maybe decreasing the irrigation rate by 25%, or for the months of the summer, reducing the rate by X. None of those are here right now. Council would have to do a specific resolution in order for us to implement that. So that, I guess that's comment number 1. Comment number 2 is that will, as staff, need to bring forward an amended budget, of course, with all of the different changes and everything that are being proposed. So it would probably be worthwhile for council to provide staff with some direction as to which of the scenarios that you'd want us to incorporate into those revised budgets. So those are my 2 comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. That was where I was going to go to next. So we are not quite out of the work here yet, Council. I would like to look at the water budget impacts first. And as Councillor, or pardon me, as our Director of Finance requested, I'd like somebody to bring forward a recommendation and include in your recommendation that it's for the water utility and also what your scenario is. And then Dave can clarify for the audience tomorrow what exactly that scenario is. Does that sound good, Dave, to proceed that way?
Absolutely.
Okay, so over to Council. Anyone? Don't be shy, Council. We all have the scenarios in front of us. Councillor Van Elfen.
I'll put it on the table for discussion. Scenario 3 with water. If that's the one you're looking for water first, Madam Mayor?
Yes, thank you. For water first. Dave, could I ask you to read out the scenario 3 water budget?
Yeah, I just gotta find it. Sorry. So scenario 3. Scenario 3 takes into account a 45% reduction in commercial and municipal consumption from April to December, a 5% reduction in residential consumption from April, May, September, and December, a 15% reduction in residential consumption for June to August, a 25% reduction in commercial, municipal, and residential water rates for July and August, a 25% reduction in irrigation rates, not including the tiered rates, and the 10% discount to apply, which Council has already recommended through one of the resolutions already.
Thank you. So given that, scenario 3, thank you, Councillor Van Elfen, for moving that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carlson, were you seconding?
I'll second. I also just have a quick question in terms of
Thank you. Go ahead.
exactly what it is that we're doing. So can the district run a $900,000 operational deficit in our budget? Or a $66,000 operational? I mean, municipalities have to balance their budget. Is that still going to happen if we go with scenario 3?
So, Councillor Carlson, right now, specifically, we're looking at the water fund, and scenario 3 within the water fund.
Right.
So right now, based on the assumptions and the rate reductions that are being put forward, we're looking at a deficit in the water fund of $43,624.
Yes.
So to balance that, the recommendation would be to increase the transfer from prior year surplus by that 43,000 to balance the fund.
So we're going to do that for each of our funds, whichever scenario we choose from each one. We're going to just move surplus from one year into this year in order to continue to run a balanced budget is the goal. The province hasn't changed that, right? We still have to balance our 2020 budget.
Correct.
Thank you. That's hard.
And there's only, based on what I remember, there's only two instances, I think, with the recommendations councils put forward where we're actually going to see a potential deficit in any of those scenarios.
I will second what Councillor Van Elfen put forward. If we're doing it utility by utility,
yes, we are.
then I will second that for the water budget. We use scenario 3.
Thank you. Dave again?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I think to make it easier and for everyone to follow, would it be possible to break out, to have two recommendations? My thought process is one recommendation specifically related to rates. So if council decides you want to reduce rates in any given month or anything else, leave the rates as their own standalone resolution. And then as a second resolution, provide us with which scenario you want us to move forward with. And the reason I ask that is in some instances, you may not want to do anything with rates. Although the scenarios provide for some moving around of revenues and decreases in revenues, you may not want to do that, but we still need a scenario. So that's why I'd like to break them out just for clarity perspective, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense. Councillor Van Alphen, still looking at scenario 3. Can you, sorry, I'm gonna go to Karen again. Karen, what do we do here? Because we've already got the motion moved and seconded on scenario 3, exactly as it says, without it divided to reductions in rates. How should we proceed, administratively on this?
I think we could amend the motion, Madam Mayor, that a 25% rate reduction in commercial, municipal, and residential rates and a 25% reduction in irrigation rates, not including tiered rates, be provided for July and August 2020. That captures the rate reduction request, and so that could be amended. Further to Dave's comment, I think we would need to be a little more specific, even with a second resolution, as to an action that needs to be taken. And if we are not aware of that action at this point, it could be something that comes back at a later date. Because these are projections, I'm just not 100% sure that we're of what the action would be, I guess, from those scenarios. So I think we should be really clear, the rate reduction and then the action as well.
Thank you. Dave, you have your hand up?
Yeah, in regards to the second comment, really the action is having staff amend the financial plan bylaw by whichever scenario you want us to do. That is the action that I would have to do to bring forward the budget back to you.
Okay, so that should be part of the second resolution to amend the financial plan bylaw. Okay, so thank you. That clarifies the action piece. I have a question. The 25% reduction, we're talking about the water rates now, for July and August, commercial, municipal, and residential, and the 25% reduction in irrigation rates. That doesn't refer to July and August only, does it? Because it's billed differently, or what?
So, excuse me. So commercial, municipal, and residential are all billed on a monthly basis.
Right.
So to say July and August is correct.
Yeah.
Irrigation rates are billed annually.
Right.
Sometime in July or August, I can't remember the date. So that one would not really need a date associated with it. It would just need that irrigation rates be decreased by the 25%.
Yes, okay. So I'm going back to you, Councillor Van Alphen, because you moved this initially. Could you bring forward amend your resolution, and it'll actually end up being 2 resolutions. So as Karen suggested, Sorry, Councillor Van Elfen. To start with the irrigation rates, the two lines that have to do with irrigation rates, and then you know, kind of direct staff to amend the financial plan bylaw. That would be the first resolution. Is that correct, David?
The rates would be their own standalone resolution.
Yes.
The amendment to the bylaw would be.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, right. Thank you. Are you okay with bringing that forward, Councillor Van Elfen?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So what you're bringing forward is that a 25% reduction in commercial, municipal, and residential water rates for July and August, and a 25% reduction in irrigation rates, not including tier rates, be applicable for 2020.
Correct.
Is that good, Dave? Okay.
Absolutely.
So Aaron, you seconded the, pardon me? Sorry, Dave?
Oh, no, I was just saying, absolutely, that's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Aaron, are you okay seconding this amended resolution? Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you. So now discussion on this amended resolution. No discussion? Oh, Anthony, do you have your hand up? Nope. Okay.
No, that was Doug. Doug and Marty have their hands up.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Just a question through to our manager of finance. So if there's a 25% reduction in irrigation rates for the year of 2020, and I pay it before December 31st, do I get an additional 10% off my 25%?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's an incentive for you. I'm not sure if it was Councillor Holmes or Councillor Patton that had their hands up, because you weren't on my screen at that time. Councillor Holmes. Thank you.
Just a quick question. How does the second service rates fit into all this, or does it?
So based on the scenarios that were put forward, second service rates are considered irrigation rates, so they would receive a 25% a decrease in their rate as well.
Okay, any other discussion on this resolution? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. And now the second part of the, well, not the second part, the second resolution to do again with the, we're only talking about the water utility here, is that a 45% reduction in commercial and municipal consumption from April to December, a 5% reduction in residential consumption for April, May, and September to December, a 15% reduction in residential consumption from June to August, and a 10% discount that's to all irrigation users, correct, Dave?
Yeah, that 10% has already been taken into account, Madam Mayor, with the resolution that you made earlier, where you extended it.
Oh, right. Okay, so we don't
I,
even need to include that.
No.
Okay. Be applicable for 2020, and that an amendment, the appropriate amendment, be made to the financial plan bylaw. Is that what we're voting on now? Dave?
That is what we're voting on, Madam Mayor. I think to make this, because there are changes on not only the revenue side, but the expense side as well, with some of the savings that were looked at. It might be a lot easier and quicker to, within the resolution, make just to have staff. I was kind of kicking something around, so I'll throw something out and you tell me if it makes sense. But that staff amend financial plan bylaw 2020 to 2024 by incorporating scenario 3 of the water fund and funding the deficit of $43,624 by way of a transfer from previous year surplus. And then that way we can pretty much use that same resolution for each fund, just changing the, of course, water fund to sewer fund to general fund. I think it provides staff with the direction as to, okay, you've chosen scenario 3. So we're gonna take that, we're gonna amend the financial plan bylaw, and this $43,000 surplus, we will deficit, we will transfer from surplus to balance the budget.
Okay, so I've written that down, but I'm hoping that Karen, you have as well, and that you could read it back to us.
Certainly, Madam Mayor. So I'm going to maybe not capture all the numbers correctly right now, but if Dave can correct me on those. So, and that staff amend the financial plan bylaw 2020 to 2024 by incorporating scenario 3 of the water fund projections and funding the deficit of 62,000. Right, Dave?
It's 43,624.
Thank you. And by funding the deficit of 43,624 from surplus to balance the budget.
Okay, Councillor Holmes, are you moving that? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carlson? Okay, any discussion on this? We've discussed it to death, haven't we? So I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Great. So that is carried unanimously. So if we could, so that's the water utility. The next one that is in our agenda is the sewer utility. So I'd like to go on to that one now. So same kind of thing. We'll talk about rates in one resolution and then the rest in a second resolution. Could I have somebody bring forward and let us know what the scenario is so Dave can remind us? Councillor Barkwell, thank you.
I think we had some discussion about this last time, and that the sewer affects only a small portion of, well, not a small portion, a large portion of Summerland, but not all of Summerland equally. And the monthly sewer bills are, I should say, sanitary collection, municipal collection system is so small that we were not going to bother with adjustments to the, and so I would propose we stay with the approved budget for 2020. Okay,
so that is your motion then?
Yes.
That we not make any changes. Thank you. Yeah. And you're right, that's exactly what we talked about before. Councillor Van Elfen, you're seconding?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Great, so that is carried unanimously. And then on to the electrical fund. We'll make a decision there, and then we have that extra direction with the general manager of the electrical utility. Could someone bring forward that resolution, please? Councillor Patton, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Dave, did you have something to, just 1 second, Councillor Patton? Dave, did you have something you wanted to say before we get started on this particular one?
Yeah, so the only thing I wanted to comment on, Madam Mayor, is I believe all of the scenarios that have been put forward have some kind of rate decrease built into them. And that was, again, only to show council what different impacts might look like. And again, based on the conversations I've heard earlier today, it doesn't appear that council was looking at potentially making any rate decreases per se in the electrical utility. So I just wanted to really highlight that as all of the scenarios take into account a rate decrease. So if you don't want to do any rate decreases, which it sounds like that's where you're going, we would just have to amend the scenarios to take that into account.
I have a question for you on that. Yeah, there's lots of rate increases there. I'm wondering if that also includes, and I'll just ask you and then get a sense from council as well, if that includes the two items about light rental fees and administrative recoveries, connection fees, and et cetera. Are those considered, I guess those are considered decreases as well?
Those are definitely decreases. Those are flat rate charges that we charge. So
right.
A rate reduction would not affect those.
Okay. So your suggestion then is
so I guess
sorry, go ahead.
What I could suggest, Madam Mayor, is that if council is leaning towards not having any rate reductions in like the commercial, industrial, and residential, what I could do is I could take scenario 3 and with my lovely spreadsheet and remove all those rate adjustments and provide you with a revised financial picture if you would like.
Council, nod your head if you would like that.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So give me 2 seconds.
While David is crunching numbers there, I can just add that the BC Hydro 1% reduction that they've advertised, that is not part of their COVID-19 relief package. That 1% reduction was already planned before any of that happened. And so that was already with the BCUC last year. So great timing, but isn't part of any relief package.
That's good to know that.
Okay, Madam Mayor, so I've run the calculations.
Already?
So basically what that does, by not doing any rate decreases in those different rate classes, revenues in scenario 3 are now 10,643,912. The expenses do not change. So the deficit number has now decreased to 283,194. So about 600,000, I believe, is the difference there.
Okay, thank you. So your suggestion then is that we don't even need to bring forward a resolution because we've already covered the 10% discount, and we've already given our request to General Manager to continue negotiations with Fortis. Is that what you're suggesting?
So yes, from a rate perspective, council would not need to bring forward a resolution. From a scenario perspective, and again, to be able to amend the budget, it would be similar to the one that you did on the water side, where you would have staff amend the financial plan based on scenario 3 without the rate decreases, and that the deficit of $283,194 be covered by previous year's surplus, just like it was in the water.
Okay. Could I have somebody bring forward that resolution, please? Councillor Patton?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As David so eloquently laid out, please.
And could I have Karen repeat what David so eloquently stated?
Okay, and that staff amend the financial plan bylaw 2020 to 2024 based on scenario 3 without the rate decreases, leaving a deficit, and the $283,194 deficit be covered by the previous year's surplus.
And we need to have something in there about the electrical fund, that we're talking about the electrical fund.
Yes,
okay.
Madam.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Scenario 3 of the electrical fund. Okay.
Thank you. And could I have a seconder for this resolution, please? Councillor Holmes. And further discussion? Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, so thank you. I have a question regarding the revenue projections, I guess. So right now, you know, and it's hard to estimate because of weather and everything, but it's a $12 million electric rate expected revenue. And now, if I noted this correctly, you project that the revenue will be $10,640,000. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And so that reduction of 1.4 million will be largely because of well, no penalty revenue, and what else?
And the consumption decreases that are being taken into account.
Okay, so you have an expectation that people will be spending less heating or whatever, turning the lights off more.
Yeah, not residential. We're only looking at about a 5% decrease in consumption. Mm-hmm. It's the commercial and the industrial where we're looking at 45 and 40% decreases in those.
Right. Okay.
So that's where you see that that decrease in revenue.
Okay, it makes sense. Yeah. What about cash flow issues with this? If people stop paying their bills because there's no penalty, is that going to be? I mean, I'm sure we're going to go ahead with this. It's more for information only.
From a cash flow perspective, all of our utilities are all billed on the same invoice. So if someone pays their utility bill, they're paying their electric, their water, their sewer, and their garbage. And those that aren't, we won't get any of those monies, right? So we are anticipating cash flow issues. The significance and where that comes in, we haven't quite calculated all of that yet, but we are looking at cash flow issues.
Really hard to estimate how many people will try and separate out their electrical utility or their water bill and not pay it. It's too complicated for me. I'll just pay it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Dave and Jeremy. Councillor Barkwell.
So are we going to have some discussion about the general fund and general operations? Because there was a couple of items in the works, budget where they thought that they would make savings that I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, I believe we are, and I will ask Anthony to lead us through that, because there are a number of things that we want to talk about, I think. Anthony?
Yes. So we've got Chris here as well to answer some of those questions. And I know there are a couple of questions that I think Mayor Boot asked last week when we brought some of those questions forward around the operating budget, around the perpetual slide. That was one question where we had a line item that was proposed to be removed. I think it was a $10,000 item. And then the archaeological investigation on the gravel pit, there was a $12,000 line item. So happy to answer any questions, and Chris can speak to anything on the operations or works on the utilities side of things as well.
Could I just add something there, Anthony? I believe that Councillor Holmes brought forward a question asking if we were going to talk about the fee for service. I'm not sure if that is something that you have written down there. And also, I wanted to talk about the RFP for the Community Health and Recreation Center. Thank you. So now over to Chris then.
Yes, Chris, do you just want to respond to there was the question around the geotechnical report for the perpetual slide and then the gravel pit archaeological assessment.
Thank you.
Oh, here, all right. Yeah, so with the perpetual slide, we're continuing the monitoring on the boreholes into the summer and expect to have the final report from Golder sometime in July or August. There was an additional $10,000 that was in the budget that had been in there for a few years about other monitoring, but it didn't have any specific scope related to it. It was actually more in previous budgets, but we had reduced it down to 10 for the 2020 budget. Thoughts are we'll get the geo report on the boreholes this summer, and that'll help lay out next steps and future budget items that we'll need to do around that slide and have some scope and costs assigned to those next steps. And that we would likely bring that forward in the 2021 budget, and that additional 10 would not be needed this year. And then with the gravel pit archaeological preliminary field reconnaissance, there was $12,000 that was budgeted for that. Yeah, this one was in the contracted services items because in 2015, the PIB had sent a letter regarding that the pit area was within 270 meters of a known archaeological site. And that there was some potential there for that, and that we were gonna, there was nothing that had come from them further or was a requirement, but we had put in some funds to have in place if we needed to act on that and carry out this preliminary field reconnaissance on that.
So thank you, Chris. Is the proposal similar to the perpetual slide proposal of moving the 10,000 into 2021, moving the 12,000 into 2021 budget as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, other questions of Chris on this?
Okay.
Nope. Okay, so I think that we can go on to the next item. Anthony?
So the Councillor Barkwell mentioned there may be some other items in the operating fund that he wanted to speak to. Maybe if we want to address the operating items first, and then I can go into the fee for service contract, and then we can have a chat about the health centre project. If that
okay,
works.
That's fine. Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, I noticed we sort of talked about it briefly last time that there is a $60,000 reduction in the street repair budget. And that doesn't seem like an area that we can afford to cut any further. We still get a lot of complaints about the conditions of our roads. And, you know, the one comment I heard was that it might cost $60,000 in vehicle repairs in Summerland if we don't have the potholes fixed. How, you know, what impact will this reduction have? We can't really afford to not, you know, fix the potholes. And, but then that might not be what it's for. Can Chris tell us exactly where he was going to cut that $60,000 so we can make think about that?
Yeah, so that, Councilor Barkwell, that was to reduce the contracted services for our patch repairs. So it was reducing that amount from 107,000 down to 47,000. So it was just, it's dealing with any of our repair patches from our water main breaks or other areas, or fixing larger sections where there is numerous potholes that we would cut out, and instead of filling it with pothole repair, we would do a hot mix patch. So this reduction, there would still be some funds to do the worst areas, but we would just look at using pothole repair in those sections longer than maybe we normally would. Instead of cutting them out and doing a hot mix patch, we would delay that further and still deal with the potholes, but not do a larger patch where maybe we would if we had all the funds in place.
You know, it sounds to me that this might be a case where, you know, a stitch in time saves nine. If you can do a good repair hot mix patch instead of some cold mix pothole filler, that would be a good thing. I would like to suggest, and I don't know how council will feel about it, but I'd like to suggest that we maintain the budget for the street repairs there, and we will have a little bit of extra money over the previous scenarios discussed because we are not, you know, another 174,000 by not reducing the property tax increase. So what does the rest of council say?
Councillor Patton?
I'm in full agreement with Councillor Barkwell. I think that what we could reduce by 60,000 this year may cost us a lot more. And Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but with these patches, with these hot mix patches, if we just use the pothole repair cold mix patches, we're still going to have to come back to these at some time in the future, and it could cost us more money for those repairs. Am I kind of in the ballpark based on the failure of a cold mix patch compared to a hot mix patch?
Yeah, Councillor Patton, that's correct. It's just to delay that inevitable repair and just to save some funds in the 2020 budget.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I fully support Councillor Barkwell on this one.
Any other comments? I have a question also of Chris. I know that we went through other cutbacks in your operations earlier. I'm wondering how many of those cutbacks affect service levels. I think it's important for all of us, and when I say all of us, I mean the whole the whole of Summerland, to recognize that when we're doing these cutbacks on our operational fund, it is going to impact service levels, and I know that messaging has been getting out through Anthony. I just want to check and make sure that there are, you know, if we go back on this $60,000, this just suggestion, that there still is other things that either will have impact on service levels or maybe a reduced impact on service levels. Obviously, this suggestion is a reduced impact on the service level in terms of filling the potholes. I just want to make sure that this is something that we can afford to do.
Yeah, I guess from an operational standpoint, this would I guess, yeah, the troubled areas we could deal through a contractor and have them patch repaired versus having operators go out and do the pothole repair. So that would help on that side of things. But in general, yeah, there's going to be a reduced level of service overall as far as dealing with complaint issues, or dealing with the boulevard maintenance, the garbage pickup, the street sweeping. Those types of things are going to, the intent is to still do all those. They're just going to happen maybe not as quickly or as early or as often as past years. Just we have less bodies trying to do the same amount of those critical tasks, so they'll be done a little less frequently than anticipated.
Okay, Anthony?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on some of the messaging that we're going to be putting out over the next week or so around the service levels. We've obviously had a little bit of information over the last day or so come out, but next week we're meeting as a team to go through and make it really clear what the operational impacts are going to be with some of those changes that we've made through the organization. So we'll make sure that information is clear and concise in terms of what the impacts are and what will continue to get done, and what may take a little longer.
Thank you, Anthony. Any further questions or discussion on this proposal by Councillor Barklow? Councillor Barklow.
If you don't say anything, I'm going to assume that you agree.
That's how it works. Okay, that assumption has been made then. Oh, Councillor Carlson, sorry, you're not on my screen right now.
I think that it's only been the last 2 or 3 years that we've put some proper money into patch repair and to doing this right, and so if it's something that urgently needs to be done, then I suggest we do it. If it's something that doesn't urgently need to be done, then I think it's probably not worth doing it in 2020. So I don't know, because it is an operational thing. But if we're going to put off something that needs to get done, then maybe we shouldn't. But like I said, I mean, if works determine that there's places that don't need to get fixed, then let's save that for next year.
Chris, could you just comment on how it is that you would prioritize these things? I understand that there's, you look at the risk factors as well. So if you could just comment on that again for us.
Yeah, no, we understand that 2020 is a different year, and that we will be, I guess, looking at things with a more critical eye and only doing what's absolutely necessary. So even though we have the $107,000 there for the patch repairs, we'll still be, like I said, prioritizing what we need to do, and not just spending that money without a lot of thought. So, yeah, but Councillor Carlson is right, that budget amount we have ramped that up over the last 3 years to get it to the point where it was. So it's sort of if needed, it's great that it's there. If not, we'll do with what we have.
Okay, thank you. Just checking. Councillor Carlson, you're good then? Thank you. So the direction is, I'm assuming, that please carry on, continue to include the $60,000 for road repairs. Can I have a nod of heads? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Barkle, oh, yeah, Councillor Barkle, did you have other things that you wanted to talk about? No, that was it. Anyone else have something other than the two items that Anthony has brought forward already to talk about in terms of operational fund? Nope. Okay, back to you then, Anthony. Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Thank you. So just a quick update on the fee-for-service contract with the Chamber of Commerce that was brought forward. So council extended that contract for an additional year under the existing contract conditions at a value of $225,000. There, as you recall, there were a number of priorities that were set forward in 2020 that were intended to be undertaken. One of them being the creation of the Summerland business and stakeholder survey process, which just began before we got held up. There's the creation of the longer term 21 to 2025 strategic plan and operational plan from the Chamber, looking at visitor service, destination marketing, event management, and business support. And they were some of the key deliverables this year that we were intending on working with the Chamber of Commerce on, in addition to the continuation of the events and the other components that they work on through the year. So a lot of that work plan is obviously impacted by the pandemic that we're dealing with right now. But if council would like staff to look at that contract, look at renegotiating it with any specific direction, we'd certainly appreciate that discussion so we can go and have those discussions with the Chamber over the coming months.
Council? Councillor Holmes.
I think we need to have that discussion with the Chamber. I can't really see the same level, if any, tourism services being provided this year. Events, all these sort of things, I think are in doubt. And the question is, what are we funding? What's the public funding for this large amount of money for? If there's not going to be if there's a visitor center, for example, isn't even going to open, I think these needs to be revisited. And if in terms of our long-term strategy for tourism promotion, this pandemic could change everything. What tourism looks like today, or looked like last year, might not be what it looks like moving forward into the future. And so I think there's a good argument for postponing a strategy like that. So I would favor that we have a conversation with the Chamber and try and pull back some of that funding.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to concur with Councillor Holmes. I mentioned that, I think, our last meeting or a couple of meetings ago. The level of service that they're going to need to provide this year will be greatly reduced, especially with the Tourist Information Center. I think it's something that, yes, I would like staff to see if we can renegotiate that contract at this point. And like was said, we're not going to have the festivals and the events possibly this year. Who knows what the fall is going to bring or the winter will bring. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But in the meantime, we're asking everybody else, to make cuts. We've asked, we're asking the municipality to make cuts. We're asking the public to make sacrifices. We're all partners in this, and the Chamber is a partner of ours too. And I think they need to come to the table and help us out too. If the level of service isn't there, then why are they going to get all the money? So I would like staff to proceed, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Any other comments? Where did you go, Richard? Oh, Richard's away for a second. Councillor Carlson.
Just while we're on the topic of the chamber, maybe I missed it, but have we responded to their letter, and should we be responding to their letter in a public way so that people know what it is that the town can do, what it is that we are doing, and so that people don't take every word that the chamber letter says and wonder why we're not doing what they've asked.
Yeah, Anthony, if you could respond to that, please.
Yeah, so we definitely intend, once we've obviously received some direction from council today on pretty much all of their items. So we will definitely be responding in writing to that. And obviously as part of any communication coming out of today, we'll be outlining how we've supporting the business community. The only item that wasn't addressed in the Chamber's letter are the fees moving forward. And that's obviously a discussion I think we've got to have as an organization over the coming months, leading into the rest of this year and even into budget 2021 around what fees are appropriate to charge various sectors of our customers.
So, but you're not suggesting that we have to have that today, right?
No.
It's in coming months. Okay. I saw Councillor Barkle, you had your hand raised. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My battery was going low. I had to go find my charger. Long meeting, I guess. The related to this whole issue, and I don't know if there'll be any recoveries. I guess we can make the argument if they haven't delivered, then they shouldn't get paid. So I see how that works out. But it does bring to mind this whole issue of our business licenses paying for tourism promotion. We buy a business license for just $1,000 or $2 worth of work with our equipment on other sites, and there must be a lot of people like us who have no interest in or it's not appropriate, I think, that our fees for a business license go to support specific for tourism. We should find a way that the people that are in the tourism business and benefit from tourism pay for the tourism promotion. And I know that's not what today's about, but we are talking a little bit about the Chamber of Commerce contract in general.
Yeah. And that discussion is certainly part of the longer term vision of what that fee for service may look like.
Thank you. I'd just like to add in, I can't remember who it was that brought it up. It may have been Councillor Holmes. We will remember that we had a delegation from Penticton Travel Penticton, and Tom came forward and he was talking a lot about destination marketing organizations and how there seems to be more and more collaboration all the time. One thing that Minister Robinson brought up on our last mayor's call was there was a question there, especially from the resort municipalities, what's going to happen with destination marketing organizations and their funding, because obviously there's not a whole lot going on in terms of tourism and accommodation and hospitality, but those are very, very important for the recovery process. And Minister Robinson's response was that Minister Lisa Bear, who her portfolio includes tourism, she was working very closely with destination marketing organizations, including Destination BC, to make sure that they have sustainable funding, not so much for this year, but to plan for recovery, which really is what our conversations we'll be having those at our local level over the coming months. So yeah, I that's all I'll say about the chamber contract. Councillor Van Elfen, Anthony, did you have something to respond in what I said?
When after Councillor Van Elfen or Councillor finish providing some comments, it'd be good to have a resolution passed on this if that's the direction that council want to move in.
Yes, Councillor Van Elfen.
Well, just further conversation. I know it's a conversation we're going to need to have later on, and that's for sure. But with TODA and Travel Penticton and our own chamber, there seems to be an extreme amount of duplication in the tourist industry in the South Okanagan. That's just one comment, and a comment through to Councillor Barkwell, where, you know, tourist related businesses should pay possibly, you know, their money should go maybe to the chamber. The better they do, the better everyone does. There's always a spin-off effect. You know, a restaurant may not be directly involved in tourism, but if tourism is a booming business in Summerland, the restaurants, the fruit stands, everyone else benefits also. So we got to look at it that way. But I will digress, and I'll put the resolution on the floor that we direct staff to proceed with some negotiations with our local Chamber of Commerce in pursuing reduction of fees. Is that appropriate as a resolution to bring forward? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think Karen can maybe read out a summary of the conversation.
Beauty.
You're on mute, Karen.
Thank you. That the CAO engage the Chamber of Commerce in renegotiating the fees for services contract in relation to impacts on the key deliverables intended for 2020 from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sounds pretty good to me. Councillor Van Elfen?
I would move that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Traynor?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Is that specific enough for you? Like, do you want more direction in terms of the tourism part? Because I think we've all kind of discussed that we can't really fund tourism or this year. Do you want something more specific, or do you want to just leave it broad like it is?
I think the renegotiating component will involve everything that's contained within the budget. If at some stage there's direction from council to look at a regional approach as opposed to a direct approach with the chamber for providing that service, then that probably deserves a larger discussion, because there's going to be a lot of different players that'll come into that. I know there's some discussion already underway through the South Okanagan around regional economic development and those sort of things. So I think I've got the direction I need based on, and I got the sense of what council want me to bring back, and certainly be looking at the chamber through that negotiation process to come forward and be able to present a revised budget to council when the time is right as well.
Okay, can I just have one more quick question? Do we know, were there any layoffs at the chamber at all? Because I know Penticton's, their tourism did, but what about here?
I'm not 100% sure, but when I report back, I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other discussion on this resolution that's on the floor? Just going to check Councillor Carlson. You're good, Councillor Carlson. Thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That carries unanimously. So if you could continue on, Anthony.
Okay, and then the last item was the Health Summerland Community Recreation and Wellness Centre project. So just wanted to put that on the floor for council's discussion. Right now, we're in the process of putting the RFP out. The closing date for that is April 23rd, and that's related to the community engagement component, first phase of engaging the community around needs assessment for this proposed facility. So the intention as it stands right now is to review the proposals that come in, as long as they come in under budget and we are satisfied with selecting the appropriate proponent, then we'd be looking forward at moving ahead with that process. Within the RFP, we've built in some information around COVID. It was obviously a few weeks back and things keep changing, but we're expecting to see proposals coming in that deal with the uniqueness of this situation in terms of what type of engagement strategy would be brought forward. So If we're not satisfied, then we will have to look at different scenarios. But as it stands right now, unless we get direction from council to stop that, we've got that $80,000 contract about to be reviewed at the end of this week. Oh, sorry, at the end of next week.
Thank you, Anthony. Anyone from council? Councillor Trainer.
I would like to see this continue moving forward. I think we need to, you know, we talked about making sure that we're still thinking about the long term, and this is a project that we've been working on for so long. We were talking about it for a long time, and so I think if we can start the community engagement, it kind of gives us something to get excited about. And obviously, with all the restrictions around COVID, we would take that into account. But I think that it would be good to, you know, get going on this.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. The only issue really, of course, is the public engagement portion of it. I see no reason why anything else should be delayed. You know, since our meeting on Tuesday, when we talked a lot about, you know, how do we do public hearings and how do we hear from the public and everything, I've been thinking about that whole kind of issue. And I really think that, you know, we can look at this as an opportunity of engaging with the public in a different kind of way, and being able to reach people and hear from people that we don't usually hear from, because we've always engaged, and the whole public hearing process is set up that way to hear from people in one particular way. And so what tends to happen is you hear from the same people all the time, because those are the ones who are comfortable with that particular way. But recognizing not everybody is really comfortable standing up in front of a councillor or something. And so if we're able to reach people, like doing a radio phone-in show kind of format, I think we have an opportunity here to hear from a lot more people when we go out to do public engagement than we would normally. So I think we should carry on. We're going to have to change the way we think about public engagement, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. We can do it different way. We can even do it better, I think. So.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Anthony, could I just have you speak once again to kind of the piece in the RFP around community engagement?
Yeah, so I think it's fairly detailed in there in terms of looking at innovative ways to engage, and I think we did a good job, at least fairly quickly once we knew of the restraints that we're going to be under for the next little while, putting into the RFP a COVID clause, for want of a better word, that will really push the consultants and proponents that are putting in proposals to think differently around how the community can be engaged. There's certainly a lot more people that will have access to public information, a lot more people at home as opposed during the week. So I think the engagement strategies will be able to reach a lot more people than they typically would, as you said, Councillor Holmes.
So provide some assurance, Councillor Holmes. Thank you. Councillor Barkwa, you're next.
Would the engagement, or at this point, let's call it preliminary engagement or early engagement, involve a lot of speaking to the professionals in the healthcare business in the district? You know, the current providers and what sort of facilities we should have. I mean, this is a big empty space for me. I have no idea how many people even use the pool or RECO programs, or how many physiotherapists we have in the town, and whether we need and what sort of things we don't have that we do need, say in the way of healthcare, treadmills with special equipment or whatever. And wouldn't that come from the professionals?
Yeah, so the engagement process that'll get underway will certainly begin. It'll definitely begin with the community. asking a lot of those questions. We've got the steering committee that's been set up that involves representatives from the South Okanagan Smoke-Coming Division of Family Practice. So you've got the representatives from that office, but also 2 or 3 doctors. You've got school district, obviously Laurie in recreation, leading the charge on the recreation needs as well. So I think that already has a fairly robust process set up. I think it's going to be really interesting to find out what the community's needs and visions are for health and wellness now compared to a month ago. I think will be very different. So that's going to be a pretty fascinating part of the next few months of process that we'll have to work with the community on.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson, did you want to speak about the SFU Center for Dialogue?
Oh, sure. I just was, as we were talking about how to engage during COVID-19, I did a quick Google, and Simon Fraser is working on a huge list that they're working on of how to engage. I'll forward that to you, Anthony, but it's really easy to find. You find it.
Thank you.
And so I think that there's some resources there, and hopefully whoever brings forward proposals will have done that basic research and found some already accessible stuff on engaging during the pandemic.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. One thing that isn't on that is place speak, but that's another thing that I'm sure will be on their list in no time at all. Okay, so any other discussion about the RFP? I'm with Councillor Traynor. I would like to see it continue, and her reasoning on we need to continue to look forward to recovery in our community. I totally agree with that, and I think that this particular project, the Health and Recreation Center, or whatever we're going to call it, is something that impacts so many people in one way or several ways within our community, and it's a very visible, tangible, exciting, impactful project, and I couldn't, that's all I need to say on that, but I'm certainly in agreement with you, Councillor Traynor. Okay, any other comments on this? Okay, Anthony, I guess you have the go-ahead to continue with that.
Sure. Once the RFP is complete, we'll advise council on those next steps for sure.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else that you have on your list, Anthony, or that council would like to bring forward in terms of operational fund?
Nothing from me.
Okay. I think we've, Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Had a conversation yesterday with our CAO briefly. Last weekend, above our landfill, the Trappers area was inundated with trucks and campers and motorcycles and campfires. Apparently, Kelowna has closed all their regional camping areas. So they've migrated south to Summerland, and you know, May long weekend is quickly approaching. I don't know what the messaging should be. Do we do a message like Tofino or Bella Bella? Thank you. Please don't come here. We'd love to see you again sometime. But it's going to put if it's a long weekend for say, the amount of stress on our grocery stores and other facilities is going to be immense. And it takes away from, you know, there's already shortages for even local people when it comes to shopping. I just, you know, and then we're, you know, kind of heading into our forest fire season. Is there a way that we can stop this traffic from coming in, you know, to protect our own, you know, interface areas? because provincial parks are all closed and everything like that. I just have a feeling that people are going to head out to the bush, and then we're going to have other problems possibly. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there if anybody else has any input. Thank you.
Just one response in terms of, can we stop people from coming into our communities? This certainly is another thing that has come up time and time again with our conversations with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And at this point, until the answer is no, unless we get another order from the province that we can implement that, the answer is no. But, you know, as we all know, things are changing fairly rapidly, even still. So, Anthony, did you want to speak to anything on that? I know that I have contacted you, Councillor Carlson has as well, about this particular trappers incident on the weekend.
Yeah, and we're Fire Chief Noble's working with Emergency Management BC, trying to get some information from them. I've got a call this afternoon with the rest of the South Okanagan CEOs as well, and that's one of the topics on the agenda. There was some regional messaging coming out from the Central Okanagan around closing campgrounds and those sort of things, and that's the sort of discussion we want to have with the RDOS as well, to see, again, it would be simpler if there is a consistent message amongst all South Okanagan municipalities, as opposed to everyone doing things differently. So hopefully early next week we'll have some more information on that, because yeah, I know we had a number of complaints with just the increased traffic, not necessarily the behavior side of things, but just the increased traffic up on some of the edge areas of the community.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for bringing that forward again, Councillor Van Elfen. Councillor Holmes.
I think this is an issue that's only going to get worse as the weather gets nicer, and I've been reading quite a few reports about how trail use in general in the Okanagan has just exploded this past weekend. And it's also, you know, it's people like me who, because I can't play tennis, so what am I going to do? I go use these trails, which I never would have done before. And there's lots of people in the same situation, people using these trails who that's not their normal recreation, but it's the only thing they've got now. It's the only thing. So it's something we certainly need to be thinking about, and I'm sure all municipalities will be thinking about it. But it's going to become really hard to maintain physical distancing on these trails, I think.
Yeah, and again, Anthony, I think that taking this collaborative approach and talking through the whole South Okanagan Similkameen region, I really think that that's the way to go. And it's certainly what we've been hearing from the ministers as well, not just Minister Robinson, is to continue working in collaboration with our other local government partners. Okay, anything else to bring forward before we go into a closed session? Councillor Barkwell.
I guess two or three questions, if I could. In the proposed, the revenue side of things, one of the scenarios had a 20% reduction in landfill revenues. I wonder if that can be checked against what they're currently experiencing up there, because that's $140,000 reduction. And I know that there will be less garbage with less economic activity, but it did seem like a big reduction, and it could be back checked against, the each week's revenue. The current, that was done early before we sort of knew just what the effect would be. And then, as I noted to Anthony, you already in an email, I think you want to be careful with the building permit revenue, because I think it could be over on that one. And so are we going to have to approve a revised budget here? Is that going to be another meeting where David will rework the numbers, taking in like the pothole adjustment and stuff, and we'll have a resolution for a revised budget?
Dave.
Okay, so again, these are, as Councillor Barkwell noted, these are projections and estimates. And so far, council has, in the other three scenarios, in the other three funds, has gone with amending the budgets based on scenario 3. And again, we're hopeful that those scenarios don't actually come through and that things are actually better financially than those scenarios. In this instance, when I took scenario 3 in the general fund and I incorporated the 4% tax rate increase, as previously it was 2, I took out the $60,000 reduction in the paving there that had been discussed, and taking into account all of the other reductions in staffing, which equate to about $780,000 on the general side, we are looking at a surplus of $221,000. So without having to go back and readjust some assumptions, you know, looking at building permits and, well, okay, maybe instead of 40%, we knock that down to 35. You know, we are looking in this scenario at a surplus. My recommendation would be, as you've done with the other 3 funds, take this one here, scenario 3, with the changes, have us amend the budget as is, based on everything that's here. And, you know, if things get worse, then we'll have to come back and revise things even more. If they're better, then that's fine. Our actuals will look better than our budget amendments. And from a finance perspective, that's really what we're hoping for. So that would be my recommendation, Madam Mayor.
What was that bottom line?
Excuse me.
With the 4% budget increase and we only really talked about one change. Where does that leave us, with a small surplus then? And the very last scenario, your worst case estimate, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, Councillor Barkwell, scenario 3, I think it was.
Okay.
So that leaves us with a revised surplus of $221,438.
And hopefully it will be better than that. Yeah.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to get on to the last item on our agenda and then take a break before we go into closed. The only other item on our agenda is the letter from the president of the Summerland Chamber of Commerce. I believe we have discussed that already. Are we good to go with not continuing with that? There's no resolution. We've already talked about that.
Yeah, I think through the chair, worship, I got the direction to look at the contract, but on the response to that letter that they've sent in, I'll be able to draft a response now that we've got the budget.
Now that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Councillor Van Alphen, do you have your hand up? Excuse me. Or you're saying all good? Okay. Thumbs up. We are going to take a little bit of a break. The counselor that messaged me, what kind of break do you need? How much time do you need? Okay, now we all know who it is.
Sorry, I have kids outside yelling at me.
I know.
Anthony, how long is our closed meeting? Just so I can tell my mom, my babysitter.
A 5-minute at the most update. Unless
Oh,
you
that's it? Okay. If that's the case, then we can do whatever you guys want to do. If you want to keep going, that's fine. I just, if we're going to be another like 20 minutes or half an hour, I have to take a break.
Okay, so could I have you put forward a resolution to go into closed? And Karen, Dave.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. So I'm just wondering, is council going to be putting forward a resolution on the general fund to pick scenario 3 with changes, or because we do?
Did we miss that one?
I don't feel that that was put forward yet.
Oh, you're exactly right. That was, oh no, that was the one about, that was the property tax one. So by going with the 4% tax, doesn't that kind of nix the 3 scenarios that are there? And we're just going ahead with what has been approved? Or not, actually has not been approved, but that we're hoping to approve.
So what's happened in scenario 3, Madam Mayor, is that even with the 4% rate increase, which council has already discussed and approved, scenario 3 takes into account other revenue decreases as well as operational cost savings. All of those equate to about $1.5 million that I would now need to take that and amend the general fund budget in order to work all those through. So I still need a resolution of council, just like you did on the water, sewer, and electric,
Okay.
to have me do that.
Okay, thank you. So could I have, it's probably easiest to go to you, Karen. You know, that amend the financial plan, etc. Thank you.
Okay, so, and that staff amend the financial plan bylaw 2020 to 2024 by incorporating scenario 3 of the general fund projections and funding, we don't need a deficit, funding the deficit from surplus to balance the budget. We don't need.
There's a surplus.
Okay, so we're just gonna, sorry, I'll just reread it. That staff amend the financial plan bylaw 2020 to 2024 by incorporating scenario 3 of the general fund projections. Okay.
Did we lose Tony?
Councillor Parkville, are you moving that?
I had a question first.
Okay.
Is it necessary to refer to the $60,000 change to the road repair portion of the original projection on scenario 3?
I've already made that change, but Karen, legally, I don't know how that looks.
I think it does provide some clarity that we did make that change from what was presented. So thank you, Councillor Barkwell.
I'll make that motion with the addition of the specific mention of the change to the presented scenario budget.
Okay.
And seconder for that? Councillor Patton? Okay, discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that is carried unanimously. Thank you for catching me up on that, Dave.
You're welcome.
Okay, so could I ask someone to bring forward the resolution to go into a closed session? And Karen, if you can add in the section that it relates to as usual, that would be great. Just in your note taking. Yeah. Councillor Van Alphen has brought that forward and seconded by Councillor Barkwell. Anthony, there's nobody here that doesn't need to be here, so I think we're ready to go into.
Yeah. No,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to kick Dave, Chris, and Jeremy. They can go and have some lunch.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
And the video also will